Proverbs 4, starting at verse 10. Hear, my son, and accept my words, that the years of your life may be many. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in paths of uprightness. When you walk, your step will not be hampered, and if you run, you will not stumble. Keep hold of instruction, do not let go. Guard her, for she is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the way of the evil. Avoid it, do not go on it. Turn away from it and pass on, for they cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They are robbed of sleep unless they have made someone stumble. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until full day. The way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know over what they stumble. My son, be attentive to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Let them not escape from your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and healing to all their flesh. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. Put away from you crooked speech, and put devious talk far from you. Let your eyes look directly forward, and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. That was the passage we went over this morning. Sunday school was Lamentations. Proverbs 4 is talking about training in wisdom, and that was the scope of the sermon today, was how do we train in wisdom. It's interesting in verse 19 when it talks about the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know over what they stumble. We are inherently wicked, not in the sense that we desire to go against the will of God, but our flesh is inclined to it. When it says they do not know over what they stumble, it's kind of hinting at there are sins that we commit that we don't even know are stumbling blocks. The sermon today was talking about how speech, your head, and your feet are all important in being trained in wisdom. It hits directly in verse 24. It says, put away from you crooked speech and put devious talk far from you. It's talking about the language we use, the way we talk about people. We can sin with our tongue. The tongue can be the key to your heart. And so in verse 23 it says, keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. And the next verse directly after that is that verse 24 that says, put away from you crooked speech and put devious talk far from you. The language that you use and the way that you talk about people can be a window into your heart and your heart posture. Everyone's broken, but it can really kind of show you that window into their heart. Sunday school was on learning to lament. I've got the handout. The first point is, why do we lament? What is the point of lamenting? The first point is Christians live between Genesis 3 and Revelation 21. We know what went wrong, we know who makes all things new, and we know where history is going. But until Christ returns, we still live amid sin, sorrow, injustice, sickness, trauma, and death. Lament is one of the gifts God gives people for life in the already but not yet. And so lamenting is kind of a cry out to God. It's really interesting the fact that Jesus lamented in the New Testament. When Lazarus died, he lamented. He knew in the next 30 minutes that he was going to raise him back from the dead. But he still wept and lamented because he knows that that's not how this world is supposed to be, and that's not what it was created for. In our sorrows, an all-powerful God in that moment was still deeply sorrowful on our condition. The only counter that's kind of pushback on what Job says is in Job 39, when Job demands God to give him account of anything Job had done wrong or right. And that's when God basically said, were you there when I laid the foundations of the world? And that's one of my favorite passages is because he's lamenting and demanding God, why is this happening to me? I need an account for why this is going on. And God was like, tell me how many stars are in the sky. Where were you when I laid the foundations of this world? I set every star into place exactly where I wanted it. Just thinking about all the intricacies of creation, of gravity working perfectly, and mathematics, and everything like that. I don't know, I got off on a tangent, but basically, find rest in Him, even in our suffering. And so, part 2 was faulty roadmaps through suffering. When we lack a biblical category for lament, we often reach for inadequate ways of navigating pain. So I gave 3 ways that you want to fix it and have an answer or help them out and end the suffering. But on the other hand, sometimes we don't know the answers, and sometimes just being present for them doesn't feel like enough. And so that was one of the questions that kind of got me thinking about it a lot, is because a lot of times when they go through suffering, you're not supposed to have the answers, but it feels helpless to sit there and just be present. And so just longing and pain into the presence of God. Lament tells the truth about 2 realities at once. The world is grievously broken. God is sovereign, good, near, and faithful. Lament is not the opposite of faith. They actually can coexist. And in many cases, lament is faith refusing to go silent. And so it is faith that you have in God, and you're crying out because of that faith. Part 4, lament and grumbling. The difference is not that lament sounds tidy and grumbling sounds messy. The difference is direction. Sinful grumbling moves away from God. It hardens into accusation, unbelief, bitterness, or refusal to trust. And biblical lament moves towards God. It may be raw, anguished, and full of questions, but is still prayer. Lament in Scripture. The Bible does not merely permit lament, it teaches us to lament. There are several psalms of lament: Psalm 10, 13, 22, 44, 74, 77, 88, etc. First part is, where does David turn towards God? What does David name honestly? What does David ask God to do? And where does David choose trust? When we're learning to lament, it often includes those 4 movements. Bring pain and or sin into the presence of God. Complain. Name honestly what hurts, confuses, angers, or grieves. Asking. Plead with God to see, help, rescue, comfort, bring justice, and keep His promises. And then trusting. Remember who God is and keep turning towards Him. This is not a formula. A lament is often cyclical rather than linear. So you might be turning and complaining, and then go back to turning and complaining before you get to asking and trusting, or vice versa. In words, avoiding minimizing phrases, praying with honesty, holding hope without using hope to silence grief, and making room for lament in prayer, friendships, and cares. The church should be a place where sorrow does not have to be hidden in order for hope to be confessed. And that's one of the things that's been on my mind recently, is the answer to that question earlier is that the church has to be that place where you can find sorrow. And it's hard in churches that are very positive and that have these promises that it'll go away, is that it doesn't make room for those feelings, and it doesn't justify those people that have those feelings. And so it reminds me of a quote that I heard in a podcast, and we'll see. It reminds me of a quote from the podcast The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, and this is it. The dark despair that is like darkness. Wisdom and maturity come when we press on through that darkness in faith, continuing to seek God even in the absence of the comforts that we had known before, and discovering something richer and deeper on the other side, something less dependent on those comforts. Help Christians know that their pain is valid and that darkness is a normal part of the Christian life, that God has a tender heart on those who are struggling, that it's the heart of God, as Jesus revealed, would leave the 99 for the one. When we don't make space for that kind of struggle, we do a tremendous disservice to the church, leaving people to feel as if their own darkness is a sign that either something is wrong with them or something is wrong with the faith they have invested in. Moments like this is when we should invite people to press back into the church, to know that it is a safe place to struggle, to ask questions, and to hopefully see in that context there are still reasons to believe. And so that's been on my mind, is that Christians that are suffering need to find reasons to believe, and the church is where that happens. And so the church is where people can find rest on this earth, because it is where we draw near to God. And we have to make room for that dark night of the soul, because everybody has it. Everybody feels like they're further in their relationship from God. And everybody is cyclical on their relationship with God. They feel near and then they feel far. And those seasons can be days or years or decades. That's where the church helps, in that there's a community, and there are people who feel near to God and there are people who feel far away from God, and they can help each other out. The people who are near to God can help draw those people back in. As an encouragement for that dry season, like, we'll leave the 99 for you. In Hebrews it says, for the joy set before him, when he was on that cross, he looked through time and saw you and said, yes, like, that is worth it. All this suffering, even if it was just you were the only human he saved. It was for the joy set before him. He said, yes, I'll endure all this suffering for that one sheep. And I think that's pretty powerful.